All right, welcome in. Cube Show podcast, college football podcast, comes to you every week. We got a lot to get to. I was in Knoxville over the weekend. Tennessee, Kentucky ended up being a better game than I think we imagined it would for a lot of reasons that we're going to talk about, and we're going to get to the rest of the SEC games. Always appreciate you being with us. Please subscribe if you're tuned in right now, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Go subscribe, hit the thumbs up, like it. We always appreciate that. Tell your friends about us. We watched the film of all the SEC teams. We tell you what we saw. And that's the genesis of the podcast. So we will start in Knoxville. First, we'll tell you that we are brought to you by Wickles Pickles. Wickedly delicious. If you haven't had Wickles Pickles, you got to try them. Just to snack on or to make some of your meals better, to spice up a few different things that you have. At Wickles Pickles on Instagram, check out the recipes, different things that they do with them. They are great. They are tasty. We love them in our house. If they don't have them at your grocery store, ask them why, or just go to WicklesPickles.com. You can have some drop ship, pick up some of the gear as well, and support our friends at Wickles Pickles. They are the title sponsor of this podcast, so please take care of them. All right, 28-18, Tennessee over Kentucky. And I'll be honest, I think my entire TV crew thought this was going to go a different way. When we were talking about this game in our meetings leading up, just weren't sure that Kentucky was going to be able to keep up. Number one, multiple starters down, 8 in total for the Wildcats. And then in-game, Dane Key goes down. Eventually, Brock Vanderbilt would go down. They were beat up. I had a couple other guys exit the game and then come back. But being down the starters that they were, how they had played the previous 2 games, just didn't know what it was going to look like. And they came out and they fought. I'm going to give Mark Stoops credit for that, give his staff credit for that. This team came out and played their rear ends off. They had good energy. They had tenacity. They were physical. I mean, Tennessee's a team that's as healthy as they've been all year on the offensive line right now, and they can push you around. That defensive line, they rotate 11 guys up there, and they're physical. And Kentucky, for the most part, matched it. I think they ran out of gas a little bit late, but you would anticipate that on the road with the team that's down bodies. I mean, you got Derek Jackson at linebacker out, J.J. Weaver at edge that was out. Maxwell Harrison hasn't come back at corner. You had different guys playing different positions for this Kentucky defense, and against an offense that's just tough to defend anyway. You knew Alex Safari was going to be playing down at linebacker. Zion Childress was going to have to go from safety to nickel a little bit. I mean, Zion Childress, by the way, he's down there inside the 20, setting the edge of the defense a couple times. He goes out of the game, gets a little dinged up. I visibly watched him yelling at the training staff to let him back on the field and go back in the game because he wanted back in that bad. I mean, you talk about a competitor. I'll take 11s on my defense because that kid is fun to watch and the ultimate competitor and a guy that anybody would like to have on their team. They had 3 substitute DBs for the game. That's it. 3 total. And we're going to have to play some safeties and nickels in different spots. Maybe a couple of corners going to have to do some different things. So like Davin Rayner played down on the jack linebacker spot just a little bit. Noah Matthews was going to have to play down on the line of scrimmage some. So it was tough going for Brad White, but they did a nice job for the most part bottling that things up. Now Tennessee had some mistakes. You drop a touchdown pass deep down the right sideline. You have a tight end gets hit, doesn't hold on to one in the end zone. Then they had some special teams issues. You miss a couple of field goals. So all that being said, it helped Kentucky stay in the game, but they played hard, man. And I was really impressed with how Kentucky kind of got the run game going early. Unbalanced looks, a big reason for that. You had offensive linemen lining up on the opposite line of scrimmage, multiple tight ends in the game, putting them different places, trying to force that Tennessee defense to miss a line just a little bit. And it worked to an extent. Jamarian Wilcox, who I think is going to be a really nice back in this league, 17 carries, 102 yards. They ran for 168. Just wasn't a lot of balance with it, specifically when Brock Vanderbilt went out. When he goes out of the game, you just don't have much through the air with Gavin Wimsatt. The plan was not to use him in this game. They wanted one voice, one leader, one guy at quarterback, and it was going to be Vanderbilt. And he did some nice things. I thought he made a couple decent throws. He just has yet to prove that he can consistently be comfortable in the pocket. It's get to the back of that drop, and it's a little bit of happy feet. He starts patting the football. But when they move him and it's quick distribution, he can be pretty good. He can do some nice things. So it was just too much Tennessee for Kentucky to be able to hold on. I thought had also a couple of nice games from like Jamori Macklin, wide receiver. That was a nice catch he had down the sideline, the one-handed grab. Defensively, when they played the right technique and fundamentals up front, pad level, not getting the pads turned, they were great against the run. Couple of the big runs early that Tennessee would bust, either lose contain or you could see it specifically. D tackles getting higher, getting their shoulders turned, and it would open up rush lanes. Dylan Sampson's incredible for Tennessee. 27 for 142, 2 touchdowns, school's all-time leading rushing leader for touchdowns in a single season now. And he's so patient. He's so dynamic. A couple of spin moves. Like, I was watching the film, even though I was there, and it's like the acceleration, like the rate of speed he has doesn't stop for this one spin move. And you're just thinking, like, how does he not slow down and do a full 360 and then keep going? It's art watching him operate. Big game from Miles Kitselman also. And you guys have heard me tell his story. His dad and his uncle convinced him to go play junior college ball because, he wanted to take a scholarship to be a D end. They thought he could be a tight end. Told him, you just go bet on yourself, do it. You can make this happen. Gets the Bama offer, doesn't play at Bama, comes to Tennessee. He's been great, man. He had a couple big blocks. You'll probably see him on the block party tonight on Read and React. 6 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. That group, we've been trying to tell you guys most of this season, is what is going to separate this team from some of the other Tennessee teams. Now, do they need Dylan Sampson to stay healthy? Are they going to have a healthy center moving forward? Yeah, I think those are things that are going to be really important. We thought losing Peely would be rough, and it's not great, but they're managing it right now. Dylan Sampson's got to stay healthy. Cooper May's got to stay healthy. But, I mean, there's a lot of parts of this team that are similar to what they've had. The tight ends make this team different. And Kitselman was great. Holden Stays had a really nice block. He caught 3 balls. So that group can help them sort of be different. Receivers got to be a little more consistent. This whole slow start thing, I'm just going to tell you guys, I'm just not bought into it. And I understand people are going to look at the numbers and say however many quarters and however many halves. And it's execution. It's all it is. It's a drop pass. It's 2 fumbles in the red zone. It's a guy missing a block. It's missing a protection, giving up a sack. I mean, it's just all of a sudden that happens on 2 drives and you punt on another drive. That might be the half. So they're getting some really weird, funky looks early in games too. Bama gave them a couple of things that Bama had not shown. I think Arkansas gave them a couple of things that they had not shown. Oklahoma gave them some odd looks. So you have to get to the sideline, look at that on the iPad, figure out what it is, make the adjustments, and then mentally, emotionally, visually, you have to go out there and make those adjustments as well. Nico is still a young quarterback. Experience trumps all. So have some patience, have some understanding. If I'm a Tennessee fan, and that looked like a playoff team to me the other night, even with the slow start and playing a 3-6 football team at the time, 3-5, competitively, first off, that's a rivalry game. It means a lot to a lot of those guys. Rivalry games still matter. Ask Josh Heupel. Love talking to him about rivalry games and how much they mean to him. He talked about this is a border game. We spent a whole night in the summer on this game, the history of it, what it means, the tradition, why it's important. He embraces those rivalries. I love that about him. He talked about the cigars and the Bama game, and you heard his quotes about, I respect Coach Saban, man, but this game goes back a lot further than him. And that's not to put anything down that Nick Saban's done or said. It's just Tennessee Bama has been important for a long time. And he knows what these games are about. He embraces it. He educates his team on it. He wants it to be a big deal to them. And I love that. Love the fact that he doesn't run from that he wants it to be more important than maybe some people on the team might know or believe, to just educate them on what it is and what it's been. But I'm not worried about it because, as I told you guys earlier in the season, the off-season main emphasis was to learn how to fight different styles and win different style fights. And this Tennessee team can do that. The O-line's healthy. You got a couple tight ends that can join them hip to hip and help push you around, and a running back that's dynamic. You can grind people out now. You can. And then the defensive line is rolling a whole new group in. They can get you off the edge with twitch. They can get you inside with power. They've got some athleticism inside. They've got fresh bodies coming in. They can beat you different ways now. Be happy about that, because not every team that's elite at a certain style is going to have favorable matchups either the whole year or especially through a playoff run. This is what you're going to have. And I think Tennessee having to win this game, the Oklahoma game, the Bama game, different ways than maybe we looked at it at the beginning of the year and said, if they go to the playoff, Nico probably throws for 4,200 and 48 touchdowns and they're pitching it everywhere. the fact that they can do it in other ways is extremely valuable. And that they've been tested and they faced adversity is going to be extremely valuable moving forward. So don't just focus on things that are perceived to be negative when they can be things that are extremely positive for your team moving forward. That's the way I would look at it. Defensively, I thought the D-line was great. Aaron Carter flies around. What I noticed on this team, studying the film going in, studying the defense, the D-line sticks out. They all do. You know, Josephs, I thought, had a really good game the other night. But you see Eason. You see James Pierce off the edge. You see Elijah Simmons inside, who just like, God, you can't move him. Omar Norman Lott's the same way. You see those guys, and Jackson Moy has really been helping out as well. But I think Davin Hobbs is actually somebody who's helping him a lot and getting some good reps. Dominic Bailey played a lot late in this game. He might be able to help him down the stretch. But the thing that I noticed more than anything with all of those guys is, and Roman and I debated it today, like South Carolina, Tennessee, Ole Miss, which front would you least like to play against? Now, we both lean South Carolina, but Tennessee's right there with them. You know, I don't think you really would love to play against any of those three, but Tennessee would be in the mix for the one team that you probably wouldn't want to face. But they're playing fast. And talked to Tim Banks about it, and he said, I just think it's experience. I think it's knowing the system. It's us allowing them a little bit more freedom to go see things, play things a certain way, and do things a little bit of a different way at times. So the speed in which the safeties are coming down, the linebackers are on the perimeter, they all seem to be playing just a smidge faster than they were a season ago, and I think that's going to help Tennessee. For Kentucky, you know, you're just handcuffed offensively right now. You're playing a freshman tackle that's going to have his struggles. There are going to be bumps in that road with anybody. You know, I don't care if it's, you know, Will Campbell. I don't care if it's Andre Smith. I don't care if it's Willie Anderson. Like, freshman tackles, there's going to be bumps. There just are. And then with an offense that's not really humming before that, it's really going to be tough. Look at Ohio State a couple weeks ago when they had to switch left tackles. Didn't go great for them. So it's not going to be easy to make those kind of adjustments in today's college football, specifically when you have to go young at that spot. But I just give them a ton of credit for showing up, man. Like, I thought they played hard. The middle of the defense for about 3 quarters was really good. And those are veterans too. Like Ribka, been around forever. He played well. And you saw him penetrate, disrupt. Khalil Saunders in the backfield, disrupting, being a problem. Walker had a couple of good reps. Pad level too high a couple times, but had some good reps. Silver, Oxendine, they played so much football, but they kind of brought it. And then ton of respect for Alex Afari Jr. He shouldn't be playing that close to the line of scrimmage, but he's down there trying to mix it up. He's down there trying to make plays, you know, same way that Zion Childress is. Dumas Johnson did some good things. I thought they played fast and I thought they played physical, but just the numbers, you knew it was going to gas them out. They needed a slower pace game. And I think Tennessee kind of started to lean on them a little bit late. 28-18, the final. And it was a Tennessee offensive performance that was pretty strong. I thought Nico threw some really nice balls. I thought he was on time getting the ball out the majority of the time. When he needed to leave the pocket, he was pretty decisive about doing so. 477 total yards. You run for 185. Now, you want to clean up the penalties still. That's something that's got to go away. 50% on third down. So it was a good performance for Tennessee. In Kentucky, I'm not sure moving forward, specifically from a quarterback situation, how they're going to handle things, what they're going to do. Going to have to find a way to sort of right the ship offensively for the next couple of games. Georgia knocks off Florida. Before I tell you about the Georgia Bulldogs getting to 7-1, I'll tell you about Blue Delta jeans. Got a new pair on right now. Sporting them for Read and React. Thanks to Nick and the guys. BlueDeltaJeans.com, custom fit denim just for you. They can do this digitally now. They'll fit you right there online, or you can get gift cards online. Christmas coming up. They are stretchy, flexible, fit you perfect. They're the most comfortable pair of jeans you'll ever have. You're not going to want another pair. BlueDeltaJeans.com. Go see what they have. Check the inventory. They got a couple new jackets out, belts, hats, all the different accessories that you might need. Go support Blue Delta Jeans because they support us. We appreciate them. BlueDeltaJeans.com. This is a weird one because there are positives to take from the Georgia side of things that people aren't going to want to. There are positives from the Florida side that people are going to refuse to. There are obviously negatives about both that are going to be thrown around that I think are going to end up being the narrative, but we're going to move away from that. Let's start with Carson Beck. And I'm going to give you the good first because I feel like very few people are going to want to do that. One thing that I find doing this show every week is the negative narratives seem to be so easy for so many people. It feels like it's just a lot more difficult to find positives in a lot of things this day and age. And I find myself, I don't know if it's because I'm a dad now. I don't know if it's because I'm getting old, which I am, because my friggin' back's killing me. I'm sore all the time. But I just feel like it's good things need to be shown and discussed. And it's easy for people to watch a game on TV and say, that guy sucks, or I hate that guy, or he's not good. And it's just a lot of times not real. So all I heard about this game was Carson Beck's footwork. Carson Beck can't get it done. Carson Beck's not the guy. Oh, the pressure's getting to him. And we had our read and react meeting Sunday morning right when I got to Charlotte, and a couple guys on that call were talking about how bad he was, and y'all need to spend some time on this. So I'm like, okay, I got to go watch this one first. I had already watched 2 games on the plane. I'm going in and start watching this game, and series and some throws and some throws. I'm thinking, when does this get bad? Because it's a dig route, boom, hits it on time. Out route, bam, extension of the run game. Accurate throw so a guy can catch and run and go pick up yards. When is the bad coming? And we would get to it. So the first pick, I actually think the defense had a bust on the first pick, and the corner stayed up and then went back and helped, but Carson Beck can't make that throw. I think there's a lot of things at play here. I think there's a little bit of trust factor that is either not where it needs to be or not there. I think there's a little bit of him pressing because, listen, you're 21, 22, whatever you are, and people have been telling you the number 1 pick, you should win the Heisman, you should win a national title. It's hard to block a lot of that noise out. And, people probably talking about the air yards and Charlie check down, whatever. So he's home in Jacksonville. It's a big game. He wants to prove to a lot of people what he can do. I get that. Those things are going to happen. I mean, every now and then, the singles hitter is probably going to swing for the fence and come back to the dugout after he strikes out and have to be told, like, stay in your lane, do what you do. And playing within the system, he was great. When he freelanced, he wasn't great. But there are a couple of things that he did that were nice. I mean, he had a couple slants that were right on the money. He had a couple of deep balls that were a little too far out of bounds, where you want to maybe give those guys more opportunity to catch the ball. But when he's in rhythm and he's going, he threw some great balls in this game. The second interception, once again, just a ball you can't throw. And I honestly am not even sure it's the whole, like, he can't see it or he doesn't know coverage is. He's played enough football to know that. I don't think he's forcing it. I just watch it and I say, this is a guy that in that moment thought he could do it, wanted to do it, and tried it, and he paid the price for it. And that's happened multiple times the last few games. It has. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and try to tell you it hadn't happened, but I will tell you that I think it's correctable, and I think he can get it right. I don't think this is something that's just going to, carry on forever. But then you go back to 20-20, fourth quarter. I think it's like 3.5 minutes left. And you see him come to the line of scrimmage. This is on the film now. I'm watching this. And all of a sudden, it's redirect the back over here, talk to the center, talk to the O-line, this, pointing them out. And all of a sudden, ball snap, blitz comes, picked up. You got a little corner out, open, hits it, first down. Georgia would go on to win the game. We're not going to talk about any of that stuff. That doesn't count. We forget how much guys like him do at the line of scrimmage. We forget the difficulty and the complication of operating an offense sometimes, which is what he does. He runs a lot of the offense. And listen, center handles a big amount. Coach Searles puts a lot on the centers in this offense, and that's great. They can handle it. They should be able to handle it. But I also think the third pick where he got hit, if you watch it closely, when he's talking to the back, the center is making some sort of a call. And I think the way the protection was moved, I'm not sure he knew about that. And I'd be willing to bet that's why he got hit. Now, does that mean you should have thrown it? No. Once again, probably trying to make a play, thought he could get the ball off. Even if he gets that ball off, though, when you look down the field, it wasn't there. If he can remove those, they're going to be fine. I love how Bobo went to the extension of the run game through the air later. I love how he bludgeoned the perimeter because it wasn't there inside. It just wasn't. And that's a slight concern that I have about Georgia is the offensive line just consistently being able to get a push. Don't know if they're just going to be able to live there against a lot of teams. Part of that, Jack Pyburn played really well for that Florida defense. He played hard, man. Cam Jackson had some good reps up front. You give him credit for some of the things that he did. George Gums off the edge was athletic and slicing through, did some things. Joey Slagman back in there doing some things. Banks, Sapp, I saw 88-94 making a couple things happen. And just because they don't have 11 tackles for loss doesn't mean they didn't affect the game. I thought Shamar James was super active, played well, played hard. The Florida defense played their guts out. The most impressive part was probably like 17, 7, 13, 27, I think, 5 on a lot of the early screens and the perimeter stuff where they were flying up, putting their bodies on the line to make plays. Now, the perimeter defense would disappear because Georgia would start going to that pin and pull, toss crack, and whether it was contain or coming up to fill, it was not there later as the game went on. And that's where Georgia made a lot of money, either running the ball to the perimeter or the quick throws to the perimeter. And ultimately, that's what did them in. But I think Bobo did a great job with misdirection, getting some of the receivers involved. You saw Dylan Bell on an end around. Like, he did a nice job on a carry, picked up a big gainer. Aaron Smith had one, but Nate Frazier was solid, man. And, he did a good job getting out wide and then getting north and south. And that's what you want from your backs. You don't want them always on a toss play to keep, just sprinting to the sideline. Stretch play, yeah, you can do that. It can take a little more time. I want to see those guys out and get north and south with authority, and he did that. So kudos to him. I thought Lucky and Delp were great out there because they had to be the ones a lot of times that were cracking or either trying to steal the outside, and they helped do that. So you look on the other side of the ball, and I just think that it went into neutral a little bit. C.J. Allen did some good things. Raylan Wilson was fine. I thought Chaz Chambliss played his rear end off. He played like his hair was on fire. Jalen Walker was fine. I thought 97 again, like every game, he's just taking on blocks, two-gapping, taking on double team, stack counts, a couple things inside. Michael Williams had a couple good reps, but it was a little ho-hum defensively because I think as the game went on, you probably knew you weren't really going to be threatened, and it didn't have to be super aggressive. It didn't have to be something where you just lit them up all the time. You could stay off and play back a little bit and probably secure the game, even though where the score was where it was, it just didn't feel like a real threat. But if Lagway's in that game, and that's the unfortunate part for Florida because, he hits a big ball down the seam early, great throw, couple runs. He looks athletic, like he's had confidence. I thought the offensive line was fighting. I thought 58 had a pretty good game over on the left side. They were at least physically getting into it. And we know what Baugh can do. Jacoby Jackson ran the ball hard, but it wasn't going to be enough. You needed explosives. They weren't going to be able to find them. Mizell had the one play down the field, but it wasn't going to be there. And you think about all the things that Florida's been through, all the injuries, guys going out of this game, guys that have been out. I mean, your number one corner's out, your number one receiver's out. You lost the most efficient quarterback in the league at the time that he went out. Then his backup comes in. He gets comfortable. He's gone. It's a lot, man. It's just a lot. So say what you want about Billy, but those kids came in there and played. They showed up. They went toe-to-toe with the number 2 team in the nation. And were not really bullied or pushed around or, showed up in any shape, form, or fashion. Made some mistakes, yeah. But all in all, Georgia gets the win. They go to 7-1. Florida now 4-4. So now a couple big tests for those teams coming up again this weekend, specifically with Georgia heading to Oxford to take on Ole Miss. Ole Miss manhandles Arkansas. I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't see this one coming. Did not see this one coming. 63-31, 28 points in the second quarter for Ole Miss. Jackson Dart, most yards in school history, tied for most touchdowns in a game school history, 515, 6 touchdowns, 25 of 31. Good Lord. He ran the ball 10 times for 47 yards. Tough, physical, gritty. He knew he was going to take some hits, not afraid to take hits. You saw him getting after his guys after they didn't convert there early in the game. Just a warrior, man. That's what Jackson Dart is. He's a competitor. Jordan Watkins, 8 for 254, 5 receiving touchdowns, as Roman would say, but he was wide open. Hell, I don't care. He got wide open. No, I'll give him credit. Caden Lee, 5 for 127. Daquan Wright's turning into a weapon for Ole Miss. This 2 games in a row, Charlie Weiss Jr. has done a great job with the tight ends, and not just throwing it to them, moving them around, hiding them a little bit, doing some different things to be able to utilize them. Wright had the one where he comes in motion, then he goes out, he fakes a little block, and then he's right there wide open in the middle of the field. Like, those kind of things are going to force the defense to collapse and give you some of the perimeter one-on-ones. The run game, not super consistent. Still a little bit concerned about that. That's a pretty physical front that they went up against. However, pass pro, great against that group. It's not a twitchy pass rush team. Landon Jackson's got a little bit, but they're not very light up front. And I think that played into Ole Miss's hands with some of the max pro that they went with, being able to quickly get the ball down the field. But some more longer drops than they've had in a while for Jackson Dart to be able to push it down the field, and he didn't take quite as many hits. So they shored up some of the protection. They took their shots. They hit their shots. Jackson Dart was just on point. The deep ball accuracy was next level for him in this game. And that's why you throw for 515, because you're tough, you understand the scheme and the system, and you're putting balls right where your receivers need them, and they're able to catch them and run and get to the end zone. Tough day for that Arkansas secondary. And once I think this thing started to get out of hand, it was going to be tough to get it back, because then you got to try to create some things. That wasn't going to happen. That puts you in more one-on-ones, and obviously Ole Miss was going to keep taking them. No run game for the Arkansas offense. I feel like they had Taylon Green kind of off balance a little bit. He gets dinged up and goes out. Singleton wasn't going to give you the passing accuracy to be able to stay a balanced football team in the second half. And Andrew Armstrong had a nice day for Arkansas. Luke Haas had a solid day, but that's not an offense that's going to play catch-up. Not against that group with what they were doing. And you put the ball on the ground, you throw the ball to the other team. You're not going to be able to win that way. I did think Xavier Story played well. Larry Worth played well. But the guys up front, Landon Jackson did a couple of good things that they just did not have the impact on the game that you thought they would. On the other side, they did. And it's past time for a lot of people, but some people still aren't doing it, to talk about this Ole Miss defense for what it is. And it's one of the best in the country. It's not a one-off. It's not a makeshift. Like, right now, this is one of the best defenses in college football. Ole Miss. Chris Paul is fantastic. He flies around. This was a little personal for him, and he made him pay. Pegues inside, obviously, we know what he's capable of. We have seen time and time again what they're going to be able to do inside with Walter Nolan. He can be disruptive when he wants to. The edges are where they've really come around. Perkins is dynamic out there. Well, we all know what Princely can do. 2 sacks in this game. He can bend the edge. Well, now you have the luxury of being able to take different players and move them around in different spots. So you don't have to just have everybody live in one place. Like, we've seen Pegues out wide multiple times. We've seen Jared Ivey outside, inside. I love what they're doing at tight end also to bring extra bigs into the lineup on offense with, like, Eli Acker. He was at tight end a little bit. Thought that was cool. And to give him some run. Great Ole Miss story, by the way. So when you have that much disruption up front with linebackers that can clean everything up, Daugherty and Paul, the secondary almost doesn't even really matter. Like, and Xavier Harris is coming around. Like, we've been talking about 51 for a couple weeks, flashing. He might be a consistent real player now. So he's somebody who's going to make them a little bit different. This front 7 is up there with anybody in the country. I'm not saying I'll automatically put them ahead of Tennessee or A&M or South Carolina or anybody else, but they're there. They're in it. They're in all those conversations, all of them. Ohio State, every single one of them. They're there. And they're more athletic and twitchy than a lot of them. So we talk about Tennessee winning different style fights. This is a group, and I'm going to say this because I believe it, that Ole Miss might be able to lean on moving forward. Now, you need more balance offensively. You need more responsibility with that balance offensively moving forward, because different games are going to go different ways. And I'm going to see this weekend if they're ready to show up for a fight, because I think Kirby's going to sell it that way. And if Ole Miss reacts in a positive manner, they can absolutely win that game. Arkansas just out of rhythm offensively early, and then trying to chase points. It's not their game. Quarterback out, not the same. You wanted to see them try to run the football and live there. specifically with what Braylon Russell did last week, and it just that wasn't going to be able to be the plan anymore. So a nice win for Ole Miss. They get to 7-2. Arkansas goes to 5-4. They get the week off. Texas A&M and South Carolina, man, wow, what a game! I mean, this thing was awesome for so many different reasons. Marcel Reed gets to go for A&M, 18-28, 206, touchdown, interception, put the ball on the ground a couple of times. I mean, listen, Lenore Sellers didn't necessarily take care of the ball, but boy, did he make plays. Freaking magician in this game. Like Wizard of Willie B. Just manipulating the fakes, pulling the fakes down, almost sacked, spinning out, keeping plays alive. Like, he was incredible. Rocket Sanders, obviously healthy, 20 for 144, 2 touchdowns. How about this for a throwback? First South Carolina player with 100 rushing yards and 90 receiving yards in a game since, and if you followed the Gamecocks when this was happening, you know what a baller this dude was and didn't get enough credit. Ryan Brewer. Dude was a stud, man. He did everything. He ran the ball, caught the ball, returns. Like, he was a dynamo when South Carolina was terrible and kind of helped turn that thing around. But, man, he was fun to watch. That was a throwback that I saw on that stat when it came out. Sellers goes 13-27, 244, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He missed a couple shots that were there. They had a couple drops in this game. But Dow Loggins, oh, buddy, what a plan you put together, my friend. I hadn't seen this much gap scheme fun in a long time. I mean, they had counter, power, tight end pullers, backside tackle pullers, pulling everybody, lead blockers from the tight ends, from the running backs, motions. It was just an awesome plan. And when I watched it, my immediate takeaway was, okay, Dowell basically said, we are willing to sacrifice these werewolves off the edge being unblocked. And we're going to let the chips fall where they may. And probably knew deep down inside, they're either going to rip our hearts out and eat us alive, or we're going to make it to freedom or the homeland or wherever the hell's the yellow brick road. I don't know where you go to get away from a werewolf and find safety. They'll find the silver bullet, whatever that is. But they got it. Because first play of the game, Nick Scordon, coming down. I mean, and then it's whoop, we'll play, get him out of there. Now, they didn't all hit. They didn't all work. I mean, hell, they had one where you try to go like with the little shovel pitch or whatever it was. And, here comes Shamar Stewart, just blows the thing up right away. The ball goes flying. So they weren't all wins, but it was enough to keep them off balance. It was enough to make them start to think. It was enough to get them in the wrong place. And he did a brilliant job using the tight ends in this game. Joshua Simon, once again, he's been a weapon, man. They just haven't used him as much. And he showed you he can run, obviously good hands. He's a physical blocker. You got great help, assistance, blocking from like Oscar Attaway at tailback. The one chip he had on the defensive end blew him up. I mean, it was a team. The offensive line, by the way, held up so much better than I would have ever imagined in pass pro. And it wasn't great. It wasn't always clean. They lost a couple one-on-ones. They got beat a little bit. But I never thought it would be close to as clean as it was a lot of the times for Sellers in the pocket. And when he knew he had to go, he left. He pulled the ball down and he ran. Not a lot of indecisive, keep alive this one. No. Now, he kept his eyes downfield when he went east and west out of the pocket. And a lot of the plays took him that direction with options at different levels to get rid of the ball or keep it and run. He just made, for the most part, really good decisions. Like I said, put the ball on the ground a couple times. Can't do that. I can't put the ball in harm's way a little bit. But all in all, Lenore Sellers was amazing in this game. Rocket Sanders was amazing. Sellers ran 15 times for 106 yards, by the way. A&M offensively, it was some tough sledding. It was. And back, the A&M defense real quick. Like, the tackling, no, it wasn't great. But it's a mobile quarterback who's big enough to kind of shed a tackle occasionally. And a lot of times those don't happen as easily. Were there a couple in the open field you should have had? Yes. And I praised this linebacker core the last 2 weeks. Tarn York And those guys have been getting better and better and better, like getting guys to the ground, and the safeties were coming down and helping. Like, it wasn't as good in this game. It wasn't. And there were a lot of yards after contact for the Gamecocks. So, and then offensively, like the downhill run game just was not what you thought it would be. But I'm not sure what you realistically thought you were going to be able to get against this front. Because if you've listened to this show, you know Tonka Hemingway, TJ Sanders, those guys don't mess around, man. Like, this defensive line, they are adults, they are grown-ups, and they don't back down at all to anyone. The thing that was the biggest difference, though, for South Carolina defensively, I thought, and listen, Kennard, Stewart, they came off the edge. They're flying around. They made plays. It's great. Fun to watch. Good. Brian Thomas helped a little bit. The biggest difference for me in this game, linebacker run through. And I think because of how good that D-line is and their ability to pick certain people off and move certain ways, like being able to take half a gap. So you can slant and like just slant, or you can play like gap replace. And they played gap replace with precision, which means they didn't get washed all the way down. So if you're going from head up to the B gap, it's kind of boom, and then you got to get north and south. And they did that really well. That allowed linebackers to attack some of the times. And I'm going to tell you right now, Demetrius Knight, 17, who I think they told me runs like 21 miles an hour. He read every bit of it in this game. And they don't run in there high with their chest puffed out, looking to make like an old school peewee tackle. They come in there like a runaway freight train, like a speeding bullet. He and Debo Williams, literally flying through gaps, were very disruptive. And I don't know if the offensive line for A&M just didn't expect him to be there, didn't see him. Some of it is those D linemen taking on the double teams as well as they were, physically as they were, that you got to stay engaged on that and handle that first. We got to take care of this first before we come off on him. And that allowed a lot of run through, and that was a problem for the run game to get going. That was a problem. So those were the things that I thought kept A&M from being able to run the game. Some of the short yardage calls I was a little confused on. Like the quarterback sneak, like I just not with him. No. And then some of the East-West stuff, I don't know. But you got a couple downhill backs there that I'm going to lean on those guys right there. I did think the receivers helped him a little bit, and the receivers, South Carolina receivers, helped Sellers out a little bit too. They made a couple tough catches that they needed to make to kind of help keep things going. But this was also just walking into a hornet's nest. Like, you knew that place at night, that if them being wild would help a great defense already, and all they needed was a quarterback to make some plays, and if you give that running back room, he's going to make plays. There you go. Joshua Simon, 4 for 132, 2 touchdowns, was great. Rocket caught 5 balls for 92 yards. I mean, it was just a lot of things went South Carolina's way. It was a dominant win, dominant performance, great plan by Clayton White, great plan by Dow Loggins. They played hard. And listen, it's not like A&M's offensive line didn't come off the ball. I don't really question a lot of the effort. It's not like their D-line didn't play hard. I thought they did. It's just sometimes when you run hard to a place and it's the wrong spot because of the read or the play or the misdirection or the fake, you pay for it in yards given up. And that happened to that A&M defense. And then you're in a bad spot because you got a young quarterback that's trying to go against crowd noise and a great front that doesn't know what he's seeing, and it's just, that thing got out of whack. Great win for Shane Beamer in South Carolina. All right, I did watch Oklahoma and Maine. Probably don't need to spend a ton of time on it, but I want to say this first and foremost. Bauer Sharp, 2 games in a row, man, that you have blocked better than I've ever seen you block before. A couple really big blocks in this game. Great job. He did a really nice job. 55 right guard, I thought, played fairly well. I thought the pullers for Oklahoma, for the most part, did a good job. There were moments when they tiptoed a little bit, and you can visibly tell the difference. When they were going, it was good. But when they were tiptoeing, it was bad. Javonte Barnes ran hard. Taylor Tatum ran hard. And Jackson Arnold, a lot of the same stuff. When it's quick game, when it's simple, he's great. Good with his legs. But extended time in the pocket and the processing begins, like you can almost see the helmet start to shut down. And he can continue to grow there and be better there. But I thought he made some really good throws. 15 to 21, 224, 2 touchdowns. There was one throw that Michael Hawkins Jr. came in this game and made. And I don't know if on the broadcast they mentioned it or talked about it. And I don't know if a lot of people have focused on it. But they were lined up away from the locker rooms going towards the locker rooms on like the 20 coming out. And there's a little bit of pressure. And he almost on his back foot flips the ball. It just looked like a pop, like just real quick. And the ball just stayed in the air. And it just hung and hung. And I had to rewind it like 5 times. It was incomplete. But I was like, how far did this ball? It was like 62 yards. So if you're wondering about his arm ability, it's definitely there. Nice game for J.J. Hester. Obviously had the 90-yard reception. That's going to pad anybody's stats. But that's an explosive play they've been looking for. Xavier Robinson had one. The explosive plays have been gone. I also like that it wasn't quite as tricky dick in this game as it was the last time we saw the offense. Yes, you're going to need some of that stuff. You got to hide some things, manipulate some things, but it not as much as it was in that Ole Miss game. But the O-line still had some breakdowns. The one-on-one pass pro stuff, not great. And I'll say this, it was a good performance by the defense because this Maine offense was crafty. A lot of play fakes, a lot of RPOs, so some option stuff where they had the ability to give it or keep it or read it. Stutzman was great. The defensive line was a problem. 96, Sears was in the backfield. The edge defenders were really good in this game. 44, I think 20, 30. Trace Ford was down there. Trying to think who else we saw flying off the edge. 24 came off a couple of times, 32 off the edge. They just took turns disrupting and causing problems in the run game too, not just in pass rush situations. But the D tackles were disruptive. Bowman came down and made some big plays. Also out wide made some good plays. So it was a solid performance. 59-14, you needed that. You needed that. And that's one that you just feel good about it, soak it in, hope you can build on it moving forward. And you give up 107 rushing yards. That's solid. Handle their business. And a lot of things that you needed to sort of build on and start to grow with, you're able to do. Similar with Mississippi State. They take care of UMass 45-20. I'm going to say this right now about Michael Van Buren. Kid's tough, dude. He's tough. And he hung in there a couple of times. He knew he was going to get hit. And he got blasted a couple of times. Protection was not great. You missed some basic twists. You missed a couple pressures that you didn't see coming off the edge. He took some big hits. And he delivered some nice balls. Probably a couple that he shouldn't have thrown. But he knows he has playmakers out wide. Jordan Mosley is a legit playmaker. Kevin Coleman is a playmaker, man. Those guys can go. And the run game finally got going. The downhill run game is great. The east-west stuff, but the little quick-hitting inside zone play, Johnny Daniels can run that play. Davin Booth can run that play. And I thought center had a really nice game. I thought left guard gave some good effort at times. But you also had tight ends that helped out. Seyu Traore had a couple catches, but he also was really good in the run game. Helped him out a lot there. And Van Buren's just going to get more. He showed a lot of poise. He looked comfortable, and that's just going to continue to grow. Defensively, cleaner than it has been. Still just out of position at times. And different guys doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing based on their physique. But Brandon Jennings set the edge, I thought, fairly well. Nick Mitchell did some good things. Stone Blanton cleaned up a lot, deflected a pass. He's up making plays at the line of scrimmage. I thought J.P. Purvis was active. Isaac Smith active, made some plays. And it was just, it's going to kind of be hit and miss, feast or famine because of how they're going to have to play it. Deontay Anderson, 91, I thought did some good things up front. Just not big and not heavy-handed. And that's going to be a problem. And these are two talented quarterbacks that play. They can throw the freaking football. But 45-20, you get the win. You try to move on and say, Bill, we're 2-7. What can we do the rest of the way through? Try to find some more confidence and some more momentum heading into next year. And finally, Vanderbilt knocks off Auburn 17-7. I'm going to try to describe this to you guys. There was a coach before the game that came up to me and asked me what I thought about Auburn before our game in Knoxville. Which, by the way, the people in Knoxville are great. I love visiting with Heupel. Joey Halsey's great. Tim Banks is awesome. But Bill Martin, the SID, always does a great job. They're in slacks for Kentucky's SID. It's like she's the best ever. Like, there's a lot of good people that helped us out, and we always appreciate that. He said, "What are your thoughts on Auburn? Like on the team?" He said, "Like take any emotion, like being a former player or feelings out of it." He goes, "I just want to know about like when you watch it, what do you think?" And I thought to myself, I don't think this is going to make sense. I don't believe this is really going to be sensical, but I'm just going to say it because when I watch it, this is where my brain goes. And if you guys don't get it, I understand completely. But like, I'm just going to express to you how I feel like when I watch it, because this is the only way I kind of know how to say it. I don't think they know how to be good at football. And when I say that, I would totally understand it if people took that as, I don't think they're good at tackling or throwing or catching or blocking. But it's not even that. There are guys that can catch the ball and run. There are obviously guys who can run the ball when given the opportunity. The blocking has been better. Now Braden Joyner has a totally off game. And most of the O-line didn't play great. But when I say that, I mean it almost as a team. Like, there are guys that can tackle. Like, Jaron Thompson flies around. Eugene Asante flies around. Like, those guys are not afraid of contact. Keldrick Falk is a great football player. But understanding how to operate as a team in general and, like, play winning football, good quality football, I don't think they have any idea how to do that. That includes situational football. That includes understanding of your teammates. That includes over-understanding of your scheme as to who's good at what and can do what and might need help with other things. I just don't think they know how to be good at football. Where does that come down to? What does that really mean as far as how they got there? I don't even know. I'm not sure I could explain that. But that's how I feel when I watch it. Part of it is, let's take the first series. You get a lot of two-back stuff, misdirection, lead blocker stuff out on the perimeter, like you're pulling, buck sweep and different powers and counter looks. First play, off tackle, two-back, misdirection, goes for what was, 18 yards or something? I'm going to try not to cuss here, Mega. This is for you. And the next play, you run a boot off of it. And, I think it was even completed, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not sure that ball went to the right player. And then all of the first two series stuff that was creative and nice and good that appeared to be working, it just goes away. And it's almost like you don't see it anymore. So one of the main plays that I got complaints about was the play to the tight end. I think it was Luke Deal, and he's wide open, middle of the field, left seam, going away from the jumbotron, going right to left. And Peyton overthrows him. I had text messages. I had conversations with people who were furious with that play. I was like, yeah, you got to hit that one. It's a tough ball. Well, then I put the film on. And I see the left guard and the left tackle not be able to pass off a Tex stunt, a tackle end twist, which you work on in practice every effing day. Every day. It is one of the base fundamental stunts of football, defensive football. I'm not going to say a 3-4, a 3-3, an odd, an over, an under, a 3-3-5, a bear, a Navajo. No. It is a base football stunt. Also, based on alignment on that play, any type of awareness would have allowed you to know that was probably coming. Also, on the previous series, they got your right guard and right tackle with it. The exact same one. Once again, it's not like you should see that and say, oh man, we got to get ready for that one. Because it's as base and fundamental and elementary as it gets. But by God, they got beat on them multiple times. And that's what I watch it and I just say, just not good at football. Literally. Like, can Keandre Lambert-Smith catch the ball and run with it and be awesome? Yeah. Jarquez Hunter, run the ball, run people over, run past. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But do they all, as one, can they play good football? No. 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 It's not happenstance. It's not tough luck. I've said a million times, I'll say it again. There's no such thing as luck in football, good or bad. You make and create your own. If it should have happened, it would have happened. Make it happen. If your running back appears to be gassed and you're not going to give him the ball, walk over to him and assure yourself he's gassed. Or else, give him the ball. Yes, there are RPO throws attached to plays. That's why there are things called call 'em and run 'ems. Call inside zone against an army of linebackers, yet run it. Let's run it. Say, by God, we are running that thing right now, right here. You guys watch any Cam Ward this year? That MFer will walk to the line of scrimmage on the goal line and point to the defense and tell them, right here, right there. Him, right there. And they'll run it. And they'll score. Good at football. So I don't know. I think Connor Lew played hard. I think Rivaldo Fairweather played pretty hard. He's been blocking better the last couple games. He did some good things. Luke Deal plays hard all the time. He's not super athletic, but he plays hard. I thought Jarquez played hard. Keandre Lambert did some good things. Not good at football together. And when I told this coach this, he started to smile. And I was like, oh, man, I just made a fool of myself. Like, what are we doing? I was like, okay, what? He said, thought the exact same thing. Exact same thing. Just don't know how to play football. I don't know if it's just like an overemphasis on individual things or like some subconsciously created tunnel vision. I don't know. But it's the greatest team sport on earth. And no one can be good at it by themselves. No one. Not a running back, not a receiver, not a quarterback, not a D end. None of them are good because of just them. You're not. Not a punt returner, not a kicker even. No. You have to operate as one. To a certain extent all the time for it to work, for it to go, for it to happen. So there is no fourth quarter, why? No, it's not real. Go make it happen. Go take the game. That's what Diego Pavia did. They got the exact style fight they wanted. This was literally taking Evander Holyfield saying, hey, man, heavyweight title's on the line, and giving him 15 fighters and saying, you want the fat guy with a ton of power? You want the lighter guy that's super quick? You want the super defensive guy that you're never going to touch? Like, which one do you want? You want Glass Joe? You want King Hippo? You want Sandman? Do you want Super Macho Man, Soda Popinski, Bald Bull? You pick. You want Lil Mac? Who do you want? Belt's on the line. And he said, I want that one because that's the style fight that I know I can win. And that's exactly what Vanderbilt got. See, we focus on, they only had 227 yards. They look at the scoreboard. Losers look at total yards. Winners look at the scoreboard. Losers look at how many yards the starting quarterback had. Winners look at the scoreboard. They don't give a damn how many yards they had, how many sacks they had, how many catches they had, how many rush attempts they had. You think Cedric Alexander cares he ran for 28 yards or whatever it was? No, not in the least. They don't care. That is the mindset from the head coach to the coordinator to the offensive assistant, former head coach, to the quarterback, to everyone else on the team. They don't care. They want to win. And when it got nut cutting time late in that game, when they knew we're just going to drag this thing out, I mean, it's literally like, just get it to Mariano Rivera and we'll be good. We'll be fine. And that's what they did. They drugged the thing out. They got it late in the game, and they said, you know what? It's probably time for us to get this done. And they went 14 plays, 78 yards in 8 minutes and 53 seconds. Said, we good. And there was never a concern, ever. Never. I didn't watch not one snap of that game live, which I watched the whole thing live, and back on film and saw any panic from any Vanderbilt player at any moment in time. Not a single one. And I'm not saying that Auburn players were panicking all over the place or anything. It's not that. It's just that that was how their brains were told it needed to go. And when it was going that way, they built confidence as the game went on. Think about being Auburn on the other side of that. What has happened 5 or 6 times this year when those games have gotten to that point? Not anything good. And that's of no one's fault, but to think in the back of your mind, it's probably creeping in. Shit. Where's this one going to go? How's this one going to go down? Okay. Instead of guy go make play, guy go take ball, score, guy rush quarterback, strip ball, take it, win game. Not miss field goal, not jump on snapper, whatever the hell else. So, again, the effort was fine. I thought the beginning of the plan was great. I thought DJ called a good game. But when that dude needed to make a couple of plays, by God, he made them at the right time. I thought Keldrick Falk looked amazing. Played his rear end off. Mousy played good. DeMarcus Riddick, really good. Kieran Crawford, nice game. Jaron Thompson, physical, played hard. McLeod did some good things. The interior guys, but they didn't live there. And they wanted to, but they didn't get a ton going there. For Vanderbilt, I thought Fournette had a really good game. Miles Capers, really good off the edge. Corday Snyder off the edge. I told you their edge guys have length, and they're a problem. Just tough to deal with. So, but you can look at it and take the other approach and say, oh, we outgained them by 100 yards, and we outrushed them by 4 yards, and this and that. You lost the turnover battle, and you were 2 of 13 on third down, which is exactly what they wanted. That's how they wanted that game to go. So you can look at it as all the almosts. I can look at it as the platter that you handed them that game on. That's just how I saw it. And until certain guys, and I'm not pointing a finger individually at guys, but until they all figure out how to play good football together, this is what it is. This is the story of them. It's unfortunate that it's there because I don't think it's all on them. I think the play calling fades, and I don't know what happens to it or why or where it goes, but you turn into a drop back team, you're not that. You can't live there. No. So, then you can't sit there after a game and bring up penalties and turnovers and breaks and this. Like, that's not, you can't do that. No. Sorry. I'm not going to do that. No one should. Always appreciate you guys being a part of the show. I feel like I ended on a really somber note, and I apologize for that. But props to Vandy, man. Like, you have to give them their credit, and their credit is more than due. Clark has done an amazing job. And I will say one more thing about Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia deserves his kudos, man. Like, he's a badass. Give him credit. Jerry Kill deserves a lot of credit. Like, Jerry Kill has helped Clark Lee tremendously. But in all of this, Tim Beck's name almost never gets mentioned. And that's not right. Tim Beck deserves just as much credit as Clark Lee, as Diego Pavia, as Jerry Kill, in my opinion. Because he's steering that ship of that offense. And he allows Clark to have his hands on the defense. Jerry Kill does as well. Diego does as well. And they all have their responsibility and attributes and reasons that it's working the way it is. But I just never hear people say Tim Beck's name, and I don't think that's right. So I wanted to put his name out there because Tim Beck running that offense deserves a ton of credit. And like we had this conversation on the radio show today, McElroy and I did. Think to yourself how many quarterbacks and offensive coordinators that you can name right now in college football that have been together for 3 years, much less 4. And you see the value of it. And that's not Auburn or anybody else. That's just life where we are today. But it shows you the other side of it, if you can ever get to it, how meaningful that is. I mean, we were going through the SEC today. It's like, okay, Jackson Dart, not Arkansas, not Auburn, not Mississippi State, not South Carolina, not Texas A&M, not Tennessee, not Kentucky. I think this is year 2 for Bobo. Am I right? So it wouldn't be Georgia, even though they've been in the same building for 3 years. Not Florida. So then you go nationally, like not Cam Ward at Miami. They haven't been together for 3 years, even though that one's working. Dylan Gabriel's working. Have not been together for 3 years. Not Ohio State, not Penn State. Quinn, maybe yours at Texas. Has he been with Sark for this is their 3rd year together? I think maybe. Not Notre Dame, not Alabama. Nussmeier, I don't think they probably in the same building for 3 years, but not coordinator quarterback for 3 years. Not Clemson. So not even Colorado. It's wild to think about. I mean, how many, if I had to guess, I would say less than 30 total teams have a coordinator quarterback combo that have been together for 3 years. But when you can get it, you'll do a lot. Please subscribe, tell your friends. Appreciate you guys tuning in. You guys are the best audience. The comments have been awesome. I'll try to get back to some of you. I do appreciate it, and we'll catch up with you again next week.